Let's start with the truth. No one's telling you. Being the nice girl is the fastest way to lose yourself and him. You were raised to be polite, to accommodate, to smile when you're uncomfortable, to make peace, even when you're breaking inside. And somewhere along the way, you were convinced that being nice was the key to love, respect, and validation. But here's the brutal reality. Nice isn't respected, it's expected. The more you give without boundaries, the more invisible you become. You're not being rewarded for your kindness, you're being overlooked, ghosted, or used. Because men don't fall in love with nice, they fall in love with presence, power, and self-respect. Being nice often means silencing your needs, shrinking to avoid confrontation, and tolerating behavior that chips away at your worth. And guess what? That doesn't make you sweet, it makes you forgettable. And that's exactly why nice girls finish last. So no, this video isn't about becoming cold, rude, or heartless. It's about waking up to the truth that your softness is only valuable when it's paired with strength, when it's guarded by standards, when it's offered from a place of confidence, not desperation. Today, we're burning the nice girl script, the one that told you to settle, to wait, to hope he'll notice. And we're rewriting it with power, clarity, and self-respect. Because the truth is, you don't need to be nicer, you need to be realer. And that is what makes you unforgettable. No one talks about the emotional debt you build when you're too nice. At first, it feels like a strength being generous, easygoing, understanding. You tell yourself you're just being a good person. You let things slide. You downplay your own discomfort. You laugh off the comments that actually cut deep. You say it's fine when it's definitely not. And every time you do that, a small part of you disappears. Not because anyone took it, but because you gave it away, thinking it would win you closeness, love, or validation. But here's the truth that most people don't realize until it's too late. There's a massive cost to always being the nice one. And that cost is you. You lose your voice, you lose your standards, you lose your edge. And worst of all, you lose the deep magnetic energy that commands respect because you're too busy making sure everyone else is comfortable while you're quietly falling apart. It starts small. Maybe it's a guy who flakes on plans and you make excuses for him. Maybe it's a partner who raises their voice and you convince yourself they're just going through something. Maybe it's you suppressing how you really feel because you're afraid speaking up will make you too much. But the cost keeps building. You start waking up tired, not from life, but from constantly betraying your own needs. You begin questioning your worth. You tolerate emotional crumbs while calling it a feast. And then you wonder why your relationships feel one-sided, why people don't reciprocate your energy, why you feel resentful, even when you're still smiling on the outside. The truth is, being too nice trains people to believe your boundaries are optional, that you'll always understand, that you'll always forgive, that you'll always stay, even when they cross lines you shouldn't have let them near. The more you overextend, the less they respect you, because what costs you everything costs them nothing. And that imbalance isn't love. It's emotional self-abandonment dressed up as loyalty. Being nice isn't the problem. Over-nicing at your own expense is love without self-respect, is self-destruction. And if being nice constantly leaves you feeling unseen, depleted, and disrespected, then it's not kindness, it's avoidance. Avoidance of conflict, rejection, or being labeled difficult. But the cost of avoiding those things is steep. You become a version of yourself that's easier to tolerate, but impossible to truly love. So if you've been wondering why your kindness feels more like a curse than a superpower, it's time to check the price tag. Respect, real love, and peace never come from overgiving. They come from knowing your worth, enforcing your limits, and understanding that your softness should never come at the expense of your sanity. The cost of being too nice, it's not just your peace, it's your power. And sis, you can't afford that anymore. So if you've been wondering why your kindness feels more like a curse than a superpower, it's time to check the price tag. Respect, real love, and peace never come from overgiving. They come from knowing your worth, enforcing your limits, and understanding that your softness should never come at the expense of your sanity. The cost of being too nice, it's not just your peace, it's your power. And sis, you can't afford that anymore. When you constantly people please, you're not just being agreeable, you're unconsciously sending a loud, clear message about your self-worth. You think you're saying, I care, or I'm easygoing, or I just want everyone to be happy. But what you're really saying is, my needs don't matter as much as yours. And people will hear that even if you never say it out loud. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you're reinforcing the belief that your boundaries are flexible, that your time, energy, and emotional space are available to anyone who asks, regardless of how it affects you. You think you're keeping the peace, but what you're really doing is teaching people that you're the one who will always bend. And it gets worse. Over time, people stop asking how you really feel because you've trained them not to. They assume you'll be okay with anything, that you're always cool with it, that you'll always pick up the slack, forgive the disrespect, or stay silent when your boundaries are crossed. And they're not wrong. You've shown them that version of you, but inside, you're exhausted, resentful, dismissed. And the more you people please, the more disconnected you become from your own truth. You start to forget what you actually want because you've spent so long adapting to what everyone else needs. You start to fear confrontation, not because it's wrong, but because you've convinced yourself that keeping people around is more important than keeping your self-respect intact. Let's be real. People-pleasing is not love. It's self-erasure. It's hoping that if you're good enough, nice enough, or useful enough, someone will finally choose you, value you, or see you. But the people who are truly right for you don't need to be pleased. They need to meet the real you. And if being real means disappointing someone, then so be it, because disappointing someone else is 1,000,000 times better than betraying yourself. The truth is, every time you people please, you're saying, I need your approval more than I need my peace. But that's a dangerous game, because the more you rely on others to define your worth, the more you lose access to your own voice. And without that voice, you can't lead your life. You're just reacting to it. So ask yourself, what have you been silently agreeing to that's slowly draining you? What masks have you been wearing just to be liked? And what would your life look like if you finally said no more? Because here's the secret. When you stop people pleasing, you don't lose love. You lose the illusion of love. And what's left after that is real power. Everything changes the moment you realize that you don't have to beg for respect, love, or attention. You have to embody it. The shift isn't in what you say. It's in who you are. It's in your energy. The truth is, people don't respond to what you tell them. They respond to what you believe about yourself. And if deep down, you believe you have to earn someone's love by proving your worth, being overly available, or constantly accommodating, then that's the exact energy you'll project, and people will mirror it back to you. But when you shift your energy from chasing to choosing, everything around you starts to recalibrate. This energy shift isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, steady, and undeniable. It's walking into a room and not needing to be the most liked, just the most grounded. It's choosing to sit in your own presence and power, rather than needing validation from someone else's reaction. It's saying less and meaning more. It's moving from I hope they like me to I know who I am and I choose who gets access. This shift happens when you stop performing and start protecting your peace. You stop explaining your boundaries and just hold them. You stop proving yourself and let your energy speak. Because when your energy says, I don't chase, I attract, people feel it, and the ones who aren't aligned with that energy, they'll naturally fall away. And that's not rejection, it's redirection. You don't lose anything that was ever meant to stay. What really changes everything is realizing that your value doesn't fluctuate based on how someone else sees you. Your worth doesn't spike when you're praised or plummet when you're ignored. Your worth just is. And when you live from that place, your energy becomes magnetic, not because you're trying harder, but because you're trying less. People are drawn to certainty, confidence, peace. When your energy shifts from needing something to being something, people notice. You speak slower. You move more intentionally. You smile because you mean it, not because you're trying to win favor. And the people around you start showing up differently too, not because they've changed, but because you have. You don't need to raise your standards. You just need to stop shrinking yourself to fit into places that require you to abandon them. That shift alone will elevate your entire life. When you finally realize you're not here to earn love, but to express it without losing yourself, you become unstoppable. That's the energy shift that changes everything. Not just your relationships, but how the world responds to you. From that moment on, you don't wait for anyone to recognize your value. You live in it unapologetically, and trust me, that kind of energy, it's unforgettable. A lot of people confuse boundaries with ultimatums, but they're not the same. Not even close. Boundaries are about you. Ultimatums are about trying to control someone else. Boundaries are rooted in self-respect. Ultimatums are usually rooted in fear. When you set a boundary, you're saying, this is what I will and will not allow in my life. This is how I expect to be treated. And here's what I will do if that standard isn't met. You're not trying to force someone to behave a certain way. You're simply stating what you will do if they don't. It's a decision, not a demand. Ultimatums, on the other hand, come from a desperate place. They sound like, if you don't do this, I'm leaving. The energy behind an ultimatum is often aggressive or manipulative. It's based on needing someone else to change so that you can feel safe or loved. But boundaries are about protecting your energy regardless of whether the other person changes or not. Let's be real. If someone only does the right thing because you threaten to leave, they're not growing. They're complying, and that compliance is temporary. But when you set a clear boundary and follow through with action, not drama, you teach people how to treat you with consistency, not fear. The power of a boundary is in your follow through, saying, I don't accept being spoken to that way, and I'll walk away from conversations that become disrespectful. It's different than yelling. If you ever talk to me like that again, I'm done. One is grounded, the other is reactive. The difference also lies in emotional maturity. Boundaries come from a place of emotional self-regulation. You're not trying to control the outcome, you're just being clear about the consequences. And you're willing to walk away if your peace is being compromised, not because you're trying to punish the other person, but because you refuse to abandon yourself in the name of keeping someone else. Here's the truth. Strong women don't throw ultimatums. They don't threaten to leave every time they're hurt. They don't scream boundaries. They live them. They act with intention. And their silence speaks louder than their threats ever could. A boundary is your way of saying, I love myself enough to choose peace over performance. I love myself enough to walk away, not to prove a point, but to protect my heart. When you start embodying this energy, people notice. The ones who are aligned with you will rise to meet your standards. The ones who aren't, they'll call you difficult, cold, or too much. Let them. That's just the sound of people who benefited from your lack of boundaries being uncomfortable with your growth. So remember, ultimatums demand, boundaries decide. And once you stop giving ultimatums and start living in your truth, you stop trying to control outcomes and start commanding respect. Respect isn't just about how you carry yourself. It's about how you communicate. And sometimes the difference between being dismissed and being taken seriously comes down to the words you choose. The way you speak tells people everything about how they can treat you. If your language is hesitant, overly apologetic, or indirect, you train others to ignore your boundaries. But when your words are clear, firm, and rooted in self-worth, you command respect without ever raising your voice. It starts with removing permission-seeking language. Phrases like, if that's okay with you, I was just wondering, sorry to bother you, but these weaken your message before it even lands. They signal that you're unsure of yourself. Instead, replace them with confident alternatives. Instead of I was just wondering if maybe, say I'd like to talk about. Instead of sorry to bother you, say do you have a minute? You're not apologizing for existing, you're stating your needs with clarity. One powerful phrase that shifts energy instantly is, that doesn't work for me. Simple, direct, unapologetic. You're not explaining, you're not begging, you're stating a boundary, and people feel that. Another one, I'm not available for that. Whether it's disrespect, chaos, or emotional games, make it clear that your peace isn't up for negotiation. Here's another, let me stop you right there. This one instantly signals that you're not going to sit quietly while someone crosses a line. It shows that you're engaged, present, and not afraid to interrupt disrespect in real time. Also powerful, I said what I said. This shuts down debates, second guessing, and manipulation. When you say it with calm certainty, it sends a message that you don't owe extra explanations. You're done. Period. And if someone tries to guilt trip you for saying no, respond with, I understand how you feel. My decision still stands, That phrase disarms manipulation while standing firm in your truth. You're showing empathy without backing down. It's not just the words, it's the tone. Speak slower. Don't rush. Own your pauses. When you speak with intention, people lean in. They know you're not just reacting, you're choosing your words with precision. And that's powerful. Remember, respect isn't earned by over-explaining, over-giving, or over-apologizing. It's earned by being clear, calm, consistent. Every time you choose to speak from self-trust instead of self-doubt, you raise your standard. Every time you stop softening your words to make others comfortable, you reclaim a part of yourself that's been waiting to be heard. And the best part, when you start using language that reflects your worth, the world around you starts to shift. People show up differently. They take you seriously, not because you demand it, but because your presence leaves no room for anything less. That's the power of words that command respect. Use them and watch how everything changes. Here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Men test women all the time, consciously or not. And no, it's not always malicious or calculated, but it is real. Every time a man pushes a boundary, delays commitment, gets emotionally inconsistent, or throws in a little passive disrespect to see how you react, that's a test. He's not just observing what you'll allow, he's watching who you become when things aren't ideal. And whether he knows it or not, your response tells him everything he needs to know about how to treat you. Now here's the key. You pass these tests, not by reacting, but by standing firm in your truth. Because when a man tests you, what he's really asking is, can I lead her energy? Or will she lead her? Will you fold to keep his attention? Will you laugh off the red flag to avoid drama? Will you stay silent when your gut is screaming? Or will you show up rooted, unshaken, and crystal clear about who you are? Let's say he cancels last minute. Test. Will you be chill just to seem low maintenance? Or will you calmly say, that doesn't work for me. I value my time. Pass. He goes hours or days without texting to see how much space he can get away with. Test. Will you chase? Or will you mirror the energy and stay in your feminine power without begging for breadcrumbs? Pass. He makes a comment that feels a little off, like a subtle jab. Test. Will you laugh it off to seem cool? Or will you pause and say, I don't entertain that kind of energy? Pass. Men don't test because they're evil. They test because they're wired to evaluate strength, and not just physical, but emotional strength. Your boundaries, your self-respect, your consistency. That's your power. A woman who commands respect isn't cold or controlling. She's simply unavailable for anything less than alignment. And here's the beautiful twist. When you start passing these tests, something shifts in him too. He either elevates or he exits. And both outcomes serve you. Because the man who's right for you doesn't just test you, he learns from you. He respects the woman who respects herself. He won't push boundaries just to see you bend. He'll rise to meet your energy, not try to lower it. If you've been feeling confused, frustrated, or second-guessing your reactions, it's time to stop asking, why is he doing this? And start asking, what am I teaching him with my response? Every time you honor yourself in the face of inconsistency, you're sending a powerful message. I don't need to prove my worth, I just live it. That's how you pass every test. Not with perfection, but with presence, with poise, with peace that says, I'm not afraid to lose you, because I refuse to lose myself. Becoming the woman who gets everything she wants isn't about luck, looks, or even having the perfect life. It's about identity. It's about energy. It's about knowing, not hoping, that you are the prize. The women who get everything they want don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves first, over and over again. And because of that, the world mirrors their belief. Opportunities align. People show up. Respect becomes non-negotiable. Not because she demands it, but because her energy makes it the only option. This woman isn't desperate, clingy, or constantly explaining herself. She's not performing for approval. She's not shrinking to be liked. She walks into a room like she belongs there because she decided she does. And when she speaks, people listen. Not because she's the loudest, but because there's substance behind her presence. She doesn't chase love, status, or validation. She magnetizes it. Because everything about how she moves says, I know what I bring. I'm not afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't match that. She doesn't settle. Not in love, not in friendship, not in how she allows herself to be treated. And that's what makes her rare, while others lower their standards to keep a connection. She holds hers like a crown, never tilted, never questioned. She doesn't need to manipulate to get what she wants. Her alignment does the work for her. She attracts people and situations that reflect her wholeness, not her wounds. When things don't go her way, she doesn't spiral. She pivots. She recalibrates. She knows that rejection is protection, that delays are redirection. And most importantly, she never begs for what she knows she can build herself. The woman who gets everything she wants isn't afraid to be alone. Why? Because her solitude is sacred. She uses it to elevate, not deteriorate. And because she's full with or without a partner, she becomes the kind of woman a man doesn't just want. He respects. She doesn't gossip. She doesn't compare. She doesn't live in a constant state of doubt. She operates from vision, not insecurity. And every move she makes is rooted in one question. Does this align with the woman I'm becoming? If the answer is no, she walks gracefully, unapologetically. She's not perfect. She's powerful. She knows her flaws, owns her past, and still chooses herself anyway. And that's the shift. Because once you truly back yourself, once you embody the woman who no longer begs, chases, or pleads, you stop settling for almosts. You stop tolerating half effort. You stop explaining to people who have already shown you they don't get it. You get everything you want, not because life hands it to you, but because you refuse to settle for less than you deserve. That's what makes her magnetic. That's what makes her unstoppable. And the best part, that woman, you're already her. You just have to stop betraying her to be light. If you've made it this far, let this be your moment. Not just a video you watch, but a line in the sand, a decision, a turning point, where you stop abandoning yourself just to feel chosen. You are not here to chase crumbs, to settle for half-hearted love, or to twist yourself into versions that people find easier to swallow. You are here to lead, to love from overflow, to set standards so high they serve as filters, not fences. There's something wildly powerful about a woman who finally decides she's enough. Not when she loses weight, not when she gets the ring, not when she reaches some imaginary milestone, but right now, as she is, with her past, her pain, her story, and her softness, that kind of self-belief, it's unshakable, and it makes you unstoppable. Every time you speak your truth, you rise. Every time you hold a boundary without guilt, you expand. Every time you let go of someone who couldn't meet you where you are, you evolve. And with every step, you become more of the woman you were always meant to be. The one who doesn't settle, doesn't chase, and doesn't perform for anyone. Don't let the world convince you that your power is too much. The people who fear your light are the ones who benefit when you dim it. But you weren't born to blend in. You were born to become a force, and that force is felt the moment you stop asking for permission and start operating from your worth. So here's your reminder. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be sweeter. You need to be clearer. Clear about what you want. Clear about what you'll no longer tolerate. Clear about who you are, even when the world tries to make you forget. This isn't the end of a video. It's the beginning of a new energy. You're not just a nice girl anymore. You're a woman who commands respect, protects her peace, and leads with power. And when you live like that, life doesn't just respond. It rearranges itself to meet your level. So take a deep breath, straighten your crown, and move like the woman who knows exactly who she is. The world will catch up.